Hello, good afternoon to everyone. I welcome you to the Real Estate Development Practice Seminar with Mr. Holger Adams.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, so we are privileged to have Holger from Clifton Homes. He's currently the head of real estate development, and he's a member of the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors. He's also a member of the Ghana Institute of Planners. He's a member of the Ghana Institute of Architects as well. And Holger is very well educated. He holds a master's, an executive master's degree in real estate from the International Real Estate Business School in Germany, precisely the University of Rosenberg. He also has an MSc in urban design and planning from the Technical University, Hamburg, also in Germany. He has a BSc in architecture from the Technical University in Munich, also in Germany. Previously, Mr. Adam has worked as the country head of Rendezvous Limited here in Ghana. He's also worked as a business development manager at Orlen Invest Africa Limited in Lagos, Nigeria, and also as the head of property development at Prodeco International Limited, also in Nigeria, close by. Mr. Holger
right.
has actually led many presentations and talks and training. The most recent one being the presentation at on international perspective on development and investment in Ghana at the West Africa Property Investment Summit in Lagos, Nigeria. And then also he did a presentation on the future cities and urbanization at the annual conference of African Real Estate Societies in Lagos as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome Mr. Holger to today's seminar by this introduction. So Holger, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Ken, and welcome everybody. I'm very honored to be here today. On short notice, that's through personal contacts, friends, that arose to share some of my insights and experiences in real estate development. I hope it will be to your benefit, not just in the academic sense. I'm hoping to bring some of my practical experiences to bear, but I'm also looking forward to the conversation, to the discussion after the brief case study that I've prepared to get a better understanding of your interests and your perspectives on state development. So thank you very much for the introduction. Shall I just jump right into the case study without?
Hello. Yeah. So.
Yes, Ken.
Yes. So just a minute of to give them the rules, or just to remind them of the rules of the seminar. And so as we'll do always, please make sure you mute your microphone wherever you are, especially if there is noise in your background. And then as a matter of rule, if you have a question, you can type it as a chat using the chat button, or you can use the reactions button to raise your hand, in which case I will see it and then I'll call you to ask your question. Okay, I'm very sure you have a lot of questions for Mr. Adam, and so I would leave. I'll give the opportunity to Mr. Adam to start his presentation. So Holger, please take over.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Ken. Let me share my screen and let's jump right into the case study. Can everybody see the presentation?
Yes, I can see it.
Yes, fantastic, wonderful. So, thanks to your very flattering introduction, Ken, I can omit this slide about my professional background. Most of it has been stated already. Let me briefly give you about my track record, the kind of projects I've been working on. I was mostly involved with large inner city urban redevelopments. It was the time when large former railroad areas were coming under redevelopment, and I was fortunate to have the opportunity to work on a number of them. I was responsible for the Münchner Adressen in Munich in Germany and the Ladehöfe Augsburg. We were able to turn from dilapidated rail yards to vibrant mixed use and residential neighborhoods. With some steps in between, I came to Ghana as the country head of Endeavor, responsible amongst others for Apollonia City, the large urban expansion project just at the outskirts of Accra on the road close to OEB. And currently, as you have mentioned, I'm the head of real estate development for Clifton Homes. You may have come across some of our projects like Embassies, a large complex in cantonments, and the Lennox that is coming up in an airport residential area as we speak. There's always the question of what to present, if you follow Jack Ma's advice, and with 50 billion net worth, this gentleman must have done something right in life. It is best to learn from the mistakes of others, and I agree with him. This way, it is you understand best what counts, what matters, and what may be the critical areas that have led to or critical omissions that may have led to the failure of a. And at the same time, it not only satisfies Jack's first rule, but also the 10th. Have fun. I hope that me taking you through a failed project will also give you a certain entertainment. So this is not all about being serious and being academic, but about learning from where we are and what we can learn from the past projects, successful and not always successful. So the case study will focus on a project in Nigeria called Eco Energy Estate. It is a large urban expansion project in Lagos. Let me take you through the motivation for the project, give you a brief insight at the time of project conception, the project concept, risks, conflicts, and lessons learned. It may strike you as curious that somebody is talking about the motivation. How can a project have motivation? Well, not the project itself that has the motivation, but it is the motivation of the key actors of a project that already give you a lot of news and insights, especially in the ex post analysis, to understand why a project has happened a certain way and where wrong turns have been taken. So that's with that idea, I would like to give you a little bit of background of the project, of the institutional. It was a project conceived and driven with All In Invest. All In Invest is a large service provider in the Nigerian oil industry. They have successfully developed and are operating an offshore supply base. That means a port from which the very big offshore oil exploration and sourcing is being directed and being undertaken. It is not just the industrial area of the port itself, but connected are also work camps and necessary infrastructure for all the people that in this industry. The location is first of all in Nigeria. I'm discovering that there are a couple of red lines appearing on my screen. I'm not quite sure where they come from. I don't know whether this is visible to all. Let that not irritate us. The slides are still clearly visible. So on this slide, you see the areas of activity of All In Invest at the time that I was working there. That was in the 2012 to 2015, and when this project was conceived. The management of the company was clearly aware that just working in one industry, in one region of the country is a risk. It exposes you to the whims and the successes of if this industry should begin to struggle, then it would for the company. So it looks like that somebody is drawing on the screen. Is that possible? And I wonder whether it's necessary.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, guys, please stop moving your cursor on the screen. Okay.
Let me just. see whether I can erase all of that. So I did all of that, but guys, let me try to focus on let us all try to focus on the presentation rather than having to clean up the artwork that somebody is leaving behind. Okay. So the strategy behind that drove Eco Energy Estate was the strive to diversify their portfolio. Essentially, All in Invest wanted to in the oil sector, but they wanted to create a second foothold to stabilize their financial situation. And real estate is a very is a very instrument to fulfill that strategy, regardless of whether you look at the investment advice of bankers to high net worth individuals, or you look at the strategies that large institutional asset holders like investment funds, like pension funds and the like are pursuing next to shares in the stock market, government bonds. A lot of times invest in real estate because it tends to be a more resilient asset classes, and it tends to anti-cyclical to other asset classes. The hope is that when one segment goes down, real estate provides a certain stability. And it was that now we embarked on an exploration and identified that we would take a closer look at Lagos. Let me put it that way. The reason being that Lagos is the strongest, the commercially strongest state in Nigeria. The company I was working from was firmly embedded and very well versed in the Nigerian business climate. So they wanted to stay in Nigeria, but at the same time felt they need to move out of the Niger Delta, and Lagos as the biggest market was the obvious choice. So taking a closer look at Lagos at the time, 2014, 2015, it was standing at approximately 18 million residents. Yeah, 18 million residents compared to the 28 million residents of Ghana as we speak. You understand the sheer size of that market, and as we were convinced also the of real estate demand. Quite detailed market research. We identified the market unmet demand in the residential market, mostly in the premium segment. Those individuals and companies that were looking for places to rent or to buy in the premium segment, we're mostly looking at the highbrow areas. As clients, we our focus on international companies for a number of reasons, not just commercial ones, but also because we had the long-standing connections to large international companies. We understood their operating model, and we were convinced that we would offer very good services to them. Based on the experience of the company, we were instructed to work in the rental market exclusively. The reason being that the infrastructure, including the work camps that the company built and operated in the Niger Delta, were profitable. Yeah, so the management was of the opinion that we would never sell an asset, but we would always keep an asset and rent it out. And also in Lagos, rental yields as we encountered them at the market, were over 20%, which of course is fantastic. So there was a decision that we would not sell whatever we would be developing, but we would to rent out. These were the kind of projects that were being developed in Lagos at that time. They were well received. They were well quickly rented out and were commercially successful. So we said, okay, this is something that we can do as well. And so we focused our creativity on such a sort of residential high-rise project. Yeah. The project brief then that was approved to develop apartments in established residential areas of Ikoyi, Victoria Island, and Lekki Phase 1, which you could cantonments, airport residential, and East Legon, if you would translate it to Accra. The size should be 4 bedrooms. And we had identified the need for flexibility in the apartment layout. So this is what the architects, my architecture team, was then striving for. To work in the premium segment, target companies as clients. There are specific requirements. Companies rent a little bit differently. Companies needed a slightly different setup than individuals that are renting. So that became important then for the design of the project. And the target market would be similar to what we are experiencing in Ghana. They are willing to pay the highest rents. Land is scarce in Lagos, like everywhere. And we realized that it would be very difficult for us to secure a large enough plot in the existing urban area. But fortunately, at the time, Lagos offered an alternative. The alternative was Echo Atlantic City. A very enterprising businessman had partnered with the Lagos state government to landfill 10 square kilometers, so 1 million square meters of land in front of Echo Atlantic of Victoria Island. If I quickly go back, sorry, this is the wrong direction. So essentially what you're seeing is this is the existing island, the existing area of Victoria Island. And this area of that is being reclaimed in front of this of Victoria Island. This is Echo Atlantic City, and this being a newly created land, we had the opportunity to secure a very large part of it. Eventually, we ended up buying 113 acres in this area, which happens to be this corner of the reclaimed area. Echo Atlantic itself is a mixed-use development. The concept is to create a city expansion, but not by moving to the outskirts, but by creating additional land and surface area, existing center. In that it is similar to some of the projects we see in Dubai, where the Palms, the World, and other projects are also sand filling and creating land in front of the actual shoreline. Echo Atlantic City is certainly one of the world's biggest such reclamation projects. It was supposed, or it still is supposed, to provide homes for 250,000 residents, more than just a village that is a sizable city, 250,000 residents, and additional workspaces for 150,000 people working there and commuting in and out every day. The landfill started in 2008. By the time that we joined that project in 2014, it was halfway filled, and as we're speaking today, 2/3 of that landfill has been constructed. The development model is such that there is a developer that creates the land in that sense, and all the public infrastructure creates the building guidelines, but the buildings themselves are being then developed and created by individual, All in Invest being one of them. This is an image of what Eco Atlantic was to be, and we wanted to be part of it. We found this vision very appealing and making a lot of sense at that time. Now this is what we came up. Don't that this is the prettiest urban design that exists on the planet. It was actually one of the very first concepts, but the idea was to have again a mixed-use development, a city in the city on these 113 acres. With high-rise residential areas, with offices, with an abundance of green space and leisure facilities, which are very scarce in Lagos at the time. This whole area of, as you see, this is a further another concept. Later stage where we focused more on residential buildings, altogether 57 buildings with approximately 300 apartments. This would have space for 10,000 to 12,000 residents and associated recreational facilities. All of this was supposed to be for rent. I had explained the reasons for the company to focus on that segment of the market. And our criteria, our unique selling points that we were putting forward were that of quality, of service, and of security, which is a big topic in Nigeria. Here you see one of the slides that we used to present the project potential clients at that time. This is phase one, 3 buildings in the most northern corner of the project, in which we were planning to around 450 apartments, or up to 450 apartments, with associated recreational facilities, a pool, a clubhouse, a tennis court. It was well received, but what we heard from the clients at the time was, please show us how it will turn out, show us what you are able to achieve, because while my company had a very good name in the Niger Delta, with a track record, several ports under operation, and there's associated industrial infrastructure and work camps in Lagos, newcomers. So people wanted to see what we would be up to before. We didn't pose a problem to us. We were happy to go ahead. But obviously, if you don't know exactly who will be living in your buildings and what their requirements will be, you are faced with a certain dilemma, because a lot of times it is difficult to adapt a building at a later stage. So, and this is also something that we had observed during our market analysis, that there is quite, or at the time there was quite a bit of vacancy in a residential high-rise, in premium residential property in Lagos. We attributed that to the fact that most of these units were very large. Even when it is a 3 or 4 bedroom, then the floor area maybe 180, 200 square meters, which is huge. We said, okay, well, maybe these apartments are not meeting the actual today, like smaller apartments, because they're not coming with their families to work, to live in Lagos, but they're mostly to work. So smaller apartments will do for them. They are cheaper to operate. So what we then came up with, and again that was very well received, was the opportunity to the building floor plans. So starting from a 4-bedroom, from a large 4-bedroom apartment, you could also, sorry, these are here are the 2 4-bedroom units with boys' quarters. You can turn them into 4 2-bedrooms. You can turn it into 8 1-bedrooms and a combination of them as well. And with that, we are well prepared for any changes in the market, because if companies decide not to bring the families of their expat staff to Lagos, then we would finish those as 1-bed or 2-bed apartments. If the situation in Nigeria improves and families more inclined to join their breadwinners, then we would create the larger apartments. But there were still a couple of risks that the project was beset with, and I already mentioned that this was not a success. So let's take the time and focus our attention on the risks. For one, you have technical risks. This kind of development is beset by, let's say, technical challenges. For one, the proximity always gives rise to questions about the security and itself, especially in times of climate change and rising sea levels. You want to be sure that the ocean pushing the land away just as it had been reclaimed. With my engineering background, I was very sure that this is a project that is manageable, and I will show you how that was tackled. Then reclaimed land as such is not as stable and as solid as natural ground, which poses challenges for the foundation of buildings. But again, this is manageable, and I will show you how we did that. At the same time, next to the technical risks, there were also quite a number of commercial risks. Yeah. For all of Echo Atlantic City, the development model was the master developer creates the infrastructure, and then the individual developers put up their buildings. My company moved in and took over such a large piece of the land that they came to an agreement with the master developer that it would be our company that creates the infrastructure. Yeah, and that infrastructure needs to be created together with or even before the buildings. You need to have the road that goes there. You need to have the you need to have the sewage. You need to have the power, and it's not just you're bringing there, but you need to create a whole power. You need the substations, the transformers. At that time, Lagos was beset by blackouts, so we essentially needed to create an own power plant. All of these things are necessary to operate a city. Yeah, and all of these costs now were on our balance sheet. The solution to the unstable ground is creating deep foundations, which are very expensive. Again, an additional cost item on our balance sheet. We were aiming for the premium market. Again, cost risk, rental only creates cash flow risks, and so on and so forth. A certain client base were posing a market risks. So we were aware of some of these risks, not all of them, I must be honest, but we felt they were manageable. Yeah, we stress tested our feasibility study and cash flow analysis, and felt we were confident that we would be able to successfully execute this project. Now, let me take you through the further steps of the project, and we will see whether we were right. Now, for the risks, the technical risks, proximity to the sea, the Shaguris, which are the master developers where as the project company have created a tremendous dike. Yeah, they call it the Great Wall of Lagos, along all of Eco-Atlantic City. It is 18 meters high from the seabed, still extending 8 meters above sea level on a regular day, with rocks that are trucked in from the quarries to the north of Lagos. So really for years you had every night the big dumper trucks coming into town were laden with rocks. They were all going towards this Great Wall of Lagos. This is, as was tested by Oceanographic Institute, a successful way and a secure way to safeguard the newly reclaimed land, but it comes at a cost, yeah, which drives up the land prices. The other problem is the unstable ground that makes it difficult to build anything higher than 3-4 stories. If you want to go higher, you need to do deep foundations. And when we say deep, we mean deep. The buildings that we were proposing to put up were 77 meters, to the very highest. But below ground, below the foundation, the basement slab, another 45 meters of piles. A pile is a concrete stick, essentially 80 centimeters wide. Most desks, the desks that you are sitting at right now, most of them 5 or 80 centimeters wide, yeah, or deep, however you look at it. So it is this of round piles that we were driving into the ground, 45 meters, and each one of our 3 residential towers was sitting on 20 of these piles. We calculated the sheer length of all those piles that we needed to build and put in the ground for this phase 1 only of Eco Energy Estate, together amounted to more than 10 kilometers of concrete piles that we had to sink into the ground to create a solid and stable footing for those residential towers. And again, as an engineering challenge, it is manageable, but it comes at a cost. Yeah, and now I would like to explain this aspect of costs to you. This is a graph symbolizing the project cost that you encounter with a large construction project. It is not tied to any denomination, to any currency or actual figures, but you will see that the total amount of that you have for the construction of the buildings and the parking basement together amounts to 10. So this is the reference point. The project cost for if it would have been a regular project would have been 10. Now you add the cost of the deep foundations, yeah, and the costs rise. So 20% extra cost for the deep foundations. And because we chose to do the infrastructure ourselves, we had to add another good 20% to it. So in the end, an apartment that we were building was 40% more expensive, over 40% more expensive. The construction cost was over 40% higher than for a comparable apartment in other parts of Lagos. Fortunately, for all of you that know Lagos a little bit, those areas that I have mentioned before, Ikoyi, Victoria Island, Lekki Phase 1, they are essentially sandbanks. They're essentially sandbanks. So also there, if you in those locations, if you go above six, seven stories, also there you need to do deep foundations. So in that sense, we were not so far away from our competition. They had this 20% extra cost for the deep foundations as well. But still, we were faced with 20% extra cost for the in construction costs, 20% for the infrastructure and 20% for the deep foundation. Yeah. Now we also need to have a look at the cash flow. Yeah, and the cash flow is strongly of any construction project, especially the residential ones, is strongly related to your exit. Are you planning to sell or are you rent? So what I'm showing you here is the residential residential project for sale. Yeah, you start with initial expenditures for project planning, for doing first infrastructure, hearing and all of that. But because most of residential properties, or most residential projects, I should say, are being sold off plan. So you launch and start the sale of the project even before you begin with the actual construction of the project, which that you already have income before you have substantial expenditures. And so the one is the cost. The yellow shows an exemplary cash flow, revenue cash flow. So whereas in the beginning you already have, before you even have costs, soon of course the costs overtake the income from property sales, and you do need your own capital, but the difference between your project cost at any point in time and the revenue from sales is not too massive. Yeah, if you just look at the cash flow balance, costs minus then you see that in the middle of the project, looking at this with the construction, or should have explained before the timeline. So the project was scheduled to be built in 4 years, half year 1 to half year 8. The preliminary works, infrastructure and the deep foundations took another year. So I put this as half year -1 and -2. So this is 1 year before the actual start of the construction of the project. You already need to move to site to start to build and have costs. And then obviously you also need to look at the cash flow after the project is being is completed, because a lot of times you have not sold everything, so you have not recouped all your money at the time of completion of the project. So therefore it's necessary to look at the years beyond the 4th year or half year 8. Yeah, the cash flow for a residential project for sales, where during in the middle of the project and project's construction timeline, you have substantial costs that you need to cover, but very are being reduced by the further sales of the apartments. And very soon after you've completed the project, usually you are able to recoup all your costs and you are actually making. Yeah, that is slightly different when you're selling or when you're building to rent. Yeah, because the income comes late in the lifeline of the project. You essentially need to build the project. People are willing to sign a pre-let agreement, put the first down payments in, usually only if you heavily discount the rent, so you're even not so happy about that. But the main rental activity starts at completion or shortly after completion. And this is then where you have substantial incomes and where you recoup your cost. But if you look at the rental cash flow, your total expenditure in the middle of time is much higher. In the project for sale, your total cost that you needed to cover was around 6. Now it is more than double that. It is around 12. So you need to have deep pockets and you need to have patient capital because it is being recouped much later. The experience of my company was, though, that the rental yields are so profitable that their preference was to go for the rental market rather than selling. Yeah, so here I'm just comparing these two cash flows again, the sales cash flow and the cash flow of a rent. I had indicated that this the motivation for this project was that of diversification. The company wanted to move out of this very niche market, oil service in the Niger Delta. Now they moved to Lagos, so they at least escaped the geographical niche, but they ended up still with the same client base. Yeah, because the companies that we were mostly talking to in Lagos were again the oil majors, the Shells, the Totals of this world, the Halliburton, all of that had their headquarters or substantial part of their admin in Lagos. It's a nice city, it's very pleasant to live there, whereas Niger Delta sometimes is a little bit gritty, the weather is usually and more humid, and security is more of a challenge there. So we escaped the confines of the Niger Delta, but we were still speaking to the same companies, and that's just as heard. This proved to be one of the downfalls, or one of the reasons for the downfall of this project. Because what happens when you have the oil industry main source of income in your established market, that is the Niger Delta, but again in the new market that you want to enter, you will remain extremely susceptible to the fortunes of the oil industry, and the oil industry is directly tied to the oil. And maybe you may remember the ripples that also went through the Ghanaian economy when the oil price crashed from roughly from above $100 per barrel of Brent in the middle of 2014. By the end of the year, it was below $50. And the critical part of that is not just that it halved, that it also crashed to the barrier of $60. You need to know that the $60 is a magic threshold in the Nigerian oil industry. Most of the international companies these days are working offshore. offshore oil production is extremely expensive. Whereas in Saudi Arabia, you can produce a barrel of oil for less than $1. Essentially, you drill into the ground and it just comes squirting up. Very little cost. The cost for exploration, the cost for production offshore in the deep water and super deep water are extremely high. They amount to $60 per barrel. So once the oil price drops below $60, the companies are not profitable anymore. They stop producing. And this is exactly what happened. Yeah, we were in the first year of the project, had started construction, and the oil price crashed. And it meant that our parent company didn't have the money for the project anymore, but also our client base broke off, because companies without production, without activity, they just relocated their expats, and that was our target, back to their home country. It was much too expensive to keep them in Nigeria without any work to do. So we had looked at doing at mitigating risk, for example, by creating flexible floor plans. But we didn't even find people that were interested in one-bed apartments, much less than for four-bed apartments. So this is where we hit rock bottom. The impact on the project was that even as we were within that we were initially within budget. Yeah, a lot of projects get into problems because they are overrunning their budget. This project was within the budget. Only the financing for the project dropped in 2015, the second year of the project. Once the own revenue or the own funds, the own capital, equity as the technical term, drive, you need to borrow money, which means that you have higher costs of finance. You need to pay interest on those loans that you're taking. And if then the project delays, like in this case, because we didn't have tenants, then those costs spiral out of control. And this is what happened. It went into receivership. Eventually, it was restructured. It was completed with 3 years delay. But to this day, it is still. Yeah. So there's a famous book how 100 people work tirelessly. I don't know. I'm not sure that I get the title right, but it goes something like how 100 people worked and spent worked for 5 years to lose $10 million, and that is about a New York real estate development that went bust, and our experience there reminded me a little bit of that. Well, this is the story of the first phase of Echo Energy Estate. By now, as I mentioned, it is restructured, completed, and is back on track. But I think that this case study still provides a lot of insights in what can go wrong in real estate development. And at this point, I would like to drink a sip of water and listen to you, what you're taking away from this case study as lessons learned.
Okay. Thank you very much, Holger, for this insightful presentation. I have personally learned a lot, especially about the last bit of the slides, which has got to do with the receivership issues. I believe the students have also learned a lot. And so I'm going to open the floor to the students to ask the questions they have, if there are any. But then before that, I'd like to find out from you, would you describe this Echo Energy Estate project as a successful one, and why?
Well, no, I would not describe it as a successful one. I think there was a lot of may I use that term? There was a lot of hubris and inexperience involved. We went into a market that we did not understand, but with our very specific experience in the oil service industry, we were led to believe that we understood the market and we were able to produce, to create a product that would find its demand. At the same time, we were a little bit. We were overconfident, yeah, and created rather than a pilot project, went all out, bought 113 acres to create a rental. 12,000 people. Even if you think about it today, it doesn't sound entirely right. I think it will find its feet. It is not only the company itself, the developer has been restructured, but also the project has been amended. It is not entirely for rent now anymore. It provides bigger flexibility on the type of developments, on the type of buildings. So avoid the monotony that the initial concept had to some extent. And it's, but let me put it that way. It is still, it still requires to be executed as a continuous project. Yeah. I explained earlier on about the infrastructure, the expansion project requires such huge investment infrastructure to be even able to live in that, to operate that city, that you need extremely deep pockets. And even a company that has operated for over 20 years in the oil service industry did not have those funds. Yeah, so this is why usually, as we all are aware, infrastructure is usually done by the public, and it is then the private developers that create the individual buildings and refinance the infrastructure through their taxes. And that, I think, is a model that is there for a very good reason. Yeah, these private mega developments more often than not are not successful.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that response. I think I'll ask a second question and then I will leave the floor to the students. Now, if you were to redesign this project again, what would you do differently, given the knowledge you have acquired after you implemented the project?
That's a very good and necessary question, Ken. Thank you. I think the two takeaways that I've made, or the two takeaways from that project that have also influenced and informed my practice now here in Ghana is, for one, to create bigger flexibility, and not just when it comes to apartment layouts, but also for the commercial model. To only focus on the rental market limits you, puts you in a corner that may be too tight and too confining for you. So you need to be able, with any concept, to switch between for sale and for rent, especially when it comes when it has a certain critical mass. And that is not just a commercial decision, but that also informs how a building is being operated, how a building is designed. A building that you assume will only have 3-4 paying clients that then put their different staffs into the building has different building systems, different meters, has different lifts than if you have individual clients. That is the one. The other one is to start small, to test the market, to make sure that you really understand it and that not your previous experience inform your analysis and mislead you. If you take my current company, that was long before I joined, they started with doing small projects that had 20, that had then 30 units. They did apartments, they did townhouses. Some things worked, some things didn't work, but they were able to refine the concept of their buildings themselves. They were able to refine the client service that they are offering. Now they are able to successfully execute projects of several hundred apartments at a time. The product, I think, we're getting the product right, and we are able to provide the service to our clients that they are looking for. Start small, learn, eat humble pie, as the British say, and don't assume you know, but listen very closely to your clients, and then when you have a good grip on the market, then you can scale up. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And so our students, I'll take your questions if you have them. You can show by hand by using the reactions button, or you can just go ahead and ask your question if there are any.
Okay. My question is, hello.
Yes, we are listening to you. Continue.
Nigeria is believed to have the largest, or is one of the countries that has the largest topography in the continent, and they are believed to have a good number of vast lands that are yet to be exploited by the citizens in the country. My question: why didn't they develop their project on a solid land rather than developing it along the shores of the delta or the sea, since the cost they incurred on the foundation would have been lesser as compared to what they are having now?
Thank you for that question. Do we want to collect a number of questions, or shall I answer right away?
Yes, I think you can answer one after the other. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Sam, thank you for that question. I think the dynamic is similar to in all cities around the world. People want to live where it's pleasant and in the areas that have a high status. And in Lagos, that is the old residential areas they call it the islands, Victoria Island, Ikoyi, Lekki. And you are, and therefore this is where you are, where the rents and the prices for properties are the highest. So as a developer, you're looking there first. Lagos then has the very particular problem of traffic. I mean, we have traffic here in Accra as well, and in Kumasi as well. But when we're speaking of traffic in Lagos, it's a completely different matter. Yeah. 18 million people, when they move, yeah, they don't move. Yeah, the traffic is at a standstill. So if you live on the mainland and you work on the islands, you leave your house before 5. Otherwise, just as well forget it. And this is why we were looking at this land that was just in front of the most prestigious residential area in Lagos. With the commuting time to existing places of work of less than 15 minutes, and as Eco Atlantic is designed to be a mixed-use project, the hope was that people would live in Eco Atlantic and cross the road and enter their office building. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for the question. We'll take the second question from you.
Okay. My question is,
Hello, Emmanuel. We can't
Can
hear your
I
question.
go on, sir? Can I go on?
Yes, it's clearer now.
Hello?
Yes,
Yeah,
so,
sir. Hello, sir. Can you hear me? My
yes.
question is, do they sell or rent the apartment to a specific people in a class? Hello?
I'm not sure that I'm getting your question. Could you please repeat?
Please repeat your question.
My question is, do they target like a specific people, like a class of people that they rent the apartment or do business with?
Well,
okay.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Well, the selection is purely commercial. Yeah, that experts and senior management of international companies are able to pay the highest rents, and so this is who we were developing. Now, we had a particular experience that renting to companies is much easier than take 10, 20, 50 apartments because you're dealing with professional property developers, property managers rather on their side. So that makes our lives easier. Rather than, sorry?
Huh?
Gentlemen, please mute your microphones.
Okay, so I was just explaining that for one, it was the ability to pay substantial rents, and on the other hand, our preference was to rent to companies, large international companies with a number of staff, of management staff that were eligible for this kind of development, because it makes the management of the building much easier and the administrative side of things.
Okay, so Holger, there's one other question from Albert Dogbe. He wants to know if about the land tenure issues you faced on this project. Were there any, or in particular, what were the land tenure issues you faced? Emmanuel Echampon, please mute your microphone.
Okay, land tenure issues, and that is another thing why we opted to collaborate with Echo Atlantic City. This land did not exist prior to the project, so it was reclaimed. It was a fresh lease that Lagos State had awarded directly to the developers of Echo Atlantic City, and they were able then to reverse a sublease of 77 years. That's the time frame that we were looking at the time. Yeah. So whereas in the rest of Lagos, very similar to what you're experiencing in Ghana, there are a lot of issues about is it family land, is it government land, has the government rightly acquired it, then, or if it is family land, who in the family is the rightful representative of the family and is able to sell it or to award the lease. All of these issues did not exist there because it was a very straightforward project, because it was fresh land. Yeah.
Okay.
So was again one of the advantages.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. There's another question from this same person. He wants to know. He says, please, when you were entering into the real estate development sector, where did you start from and why?
That's interesting. It was not a straight path at all. Yeah. After leaving university, I first started with the public sector as a planner. Then I went back to academia. Worked in as head of a training outfit for the further professional development of planners, and in that context got to know the CEO of a large real estate company that who needed an support in the sale of the company. Yeah, that was it was a real estate company that was holding all those out and disused railway lands. And then this company, that was a public company, was then sold to private investors. And for this project, or for this sales process, he needed somebody that could support him. So he hired me for that specific purpose. But as I am an architect and urban planner, the new owners then saw that I knew, for one, the portfolio, that I understood the business of turning an old freight yard into a vibrant neighborhood. So they entrusted me with the development of a number of those lands. And this is, let's say, when I to work as a developer. I did a couple of other things before. So yes, you can study it. It's definitely important. It's the right thing that you are doing. But you can enter the real estate industry on very many different avenues, and development is only one of them. For me, it's the most exciting because it brings all the different parts. It brings I have a team of architects and engineers working for me. I do the technical feasibility study. I lead the land negotiations. I'm responsible for the permitting. All of that comes together, and I love that diversity. Yeah, but you can start in any one of those areas. Very rarely do you start in real estate development because it is such a wide field. You need to have solid experience and be well versed in at least one of those areas. And a lot of times it is architects, it is planners that then work as developers. Sometimes you find lawyers there as well, but then these need to be people that really have a knack for real estate, because it's not just about the legal text or about the financial modeling, but you really need to understand property and construction. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. In fact, the questions keep coming. I think I would ask the last 3 questions and then we can close the section. I'm sure you have a busy schedule, and so we don't want to take any more of that. Yeah, so
That's true, yes.
Yeah, so the next question is, when you were talking about risk, did you consider the possibility of a natural disaster occurring? For example, a tsunami happening on the sea.
Okay, so we didn't consider a tsunami, but we considered a 1,000-year storm. That is what this Great Wall of Lagos is designed for. Yeah, tsunamis are caused by earthquakes. Nigeria is not on a fault line, so there are no earthquakes. So we did not need to consider that. But yes, we looked at storms that can certainly happen, and we were confident that the protection of the newly reclaimed land, as well as our foundations, would provide ample safety for that.
Gideon, please mute your microphone. Okay, so the second question is, do the tenants pay a premium, and why? And also, is the rent subject to any reviews?
Sorry, is the rent subject to what?
Subject to any reviews.
Yes, both. The better your property is, the higher the premium that residents pay. And if circumstances change, then the rents are being reviewed upwards or downwards. Yeah, it's a very flexible arrangement.
Okay, and then I would like to know personally your take on what the key skills are for anyone who wants to venture into real estate development? I mean, given your wide experience across different countries, what do you think are the key skills that result in successful projects?
That's that would be would be the topic for another seminar. Very difficult to answer that in a few sentences, Ken. But me explaining my professional or my career development, you see one option to get to venture into real estate development. I feel the most important, and that sounds maybe very, very general and very vague, but honestly, it's my conviction that this is the most important skill, is to understand how people's needs translate into space. Yeah, you need to understand what people are looking for, kind of lives they live, for how they operate their business, and a lot of times now, how they want to invest their money, what they want to achieve when they are looking at real estate. And you need to be able to create a product exactly for that. It helps to have experience in design thinking. Architects, urban designers, urban planners are usually quite good in that. You need to understand construction. Yeah, you need to be able to have a conversation with your construction manager, and when he wants to show you something, you need to put on your boots and your hard hat, go on site and discuss on location how to solve a technical problem. You of course need to understand the economics of real estate. You need to understand it from a project point of view, but then again, take the client's perspective and understand when an investment in real estate works for them, whether they live in the apartment or whether they are buying it as an investment to rent out. So I think you need to have a range of professional competences around real estate and property, but the most important is to really deeply understand what your clients are looking for, and not to build the house that you want to be living in, or work on your own assumptions or copy what they're doing across the road, but be very clear and focused on what your clients need, and then to be able to offer it at a price that makes sense to them and still gives you a profit. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So all too soon, we've come to the end of this seminar. I'd like to find out from Holger, do you have any closing remarks for us?
First, let me just express my gratitude for this for the opportunity to participate in the seminar today. I'm looking forward to continuing that collaboration if possible. I'm curious about your and that of the students on real estate development. It's part of broadening my horizon, and so therefore I'm very grateful. I think that that this is the last seminar of this semester, of this term. I hope that the one or the other of you has the opportunity during the break time to gain practical experience in real estate in one of the many fields, because it really sharpens your perception and provides invaluable insights that will also benefit your academic career to go out and understand what's happening on the ground. So I can only encourage you to look for those opportunities.
Okay, so thank you very much once again. We are also grateful for your time, the fact that you've been able to squeeze some time despite the short notice. And we are looking forward to further collaboration going forward. Thank you and have a good day. Bye.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Ken.
Yeah.
And everybody else there. Have a good day.
Have a good day, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.